Sure. Yeah, makes sense.
Can I have your attention, please? We'll be starting up shortly.
Just in case. Where do you sign, Jane? Wait a minute.
Good evening, and welcome to the February 18th, 2010 Lowell Planning Board meeting. Tonight, we do have one public hearing, which is Smith Street. We also have a couple matters under old business. One of our board members, Mr. Jenman, is running a little late, so on the Smith Street matter, what I'll do is I'll take, put that to the side, and we'll move on and take the Stephen Street, the Lowell Catholic matter, because on the Smith Street, it's a request for a special permit, which does need 4 of the 5 votes for the board members. Therefore, while we're waiting for Mr. Jenman to arrive, if there's no objection to the board members, we'll move along to 530 Stephen Street. Any objection for board matters? All right, take the matter out of order. So we'll have 530 Stephen Street. This is Lowell Catholic High School. The planning board will review a request to amend the approved site plan, condition to allow the applicant to open the rear parking gate adjacent to the parking lot from 7:25 to 7:45 a.m., thereby allowing vehicular traffic to exit onto Wilder Street on a temporary basis. The board will review data collected during a 60-day trial period to determine traffic impacts during the 20-minute period. May we hear the case for the applicant, please? Okay. Could you, who's ever here for Lowell Catholic? Okay. Could you come to the microphone and just give us your name and address and indicate? I know we have received a few matters in our packet, but if you could just address the matters of Lowell Catholic, please, and state your name, please.
Gary Hart, Dean of Students, Lowell Catholic High School.
And I know you gave us a survey and with something that was dated today. Do you just want to give us a little narrative on this for the people who are with us this evening in regards to your proposal and what you propose to do and how you monitor the situation over the last 60 days?
In the past, what's happened.
What you've done since...
I think I came to you in October, and I'm new to the school as a new administrator, and I think I see things a little bit differently, you know, from my experience at public school coming there, and knowing the history of learning step by step, learning the history, where we went from 270 students, 250 students, now we're up to 370 students. So where students came in before, because there was always parking, I mean, this is probably the first year or so where the parking has been signed off by August. So the juniors and seniors have filled in with the faculty, so we've filled all our spaces. I took time to get to know neighbors, introduce myself to the neighborhood, to the different individuals, find out what the situations are, try to address them. One thing that I noticed with the park, with the flow, the traffic flow is, we changed some painting over the summer, we put in cones, took a definite step. I think the previous administrator stood out front, and I'm more active where I'm all around the building. I've taken teachers and assigned them duty just to cover that flow. I think it's traditional, it's customary, people slow down, but they weren't stopping at the stop sign. We made them stop at the stop sign by myself being there or the custodian being there, and it was kind of changing the culture. Where I need help, though, is where we don't have people stopping on the front, in front of the school, although we had a few right before vacation. We'll nail those right away. Most people are cooperating. They come in the driveway, they stop at the stop sign, and they drop students off out back. What I see the problem is that we have people cooperating, coming and dropping the students out back, not dropping them off on the sidewalks, not dropping them off out front. When all the cars are coming out, exiting that part of the driveway, which goes all the way around the building, the situation is we have students passing to their lockers to that science building, and we have students coming from the science building maybe over to the main building. So I usually post myself there because there are so many cars coming out. And the people are very cooperative. And I have to tell you, the people on Stevens Street are very cooperative. They're very good to our parents. I'm waving to them all the time, saying thank you. I haven't heard horns. I haven't heard, taxi cab type of horns out there. People have been very considerate. They know the situation. However, the idea was, I understand having the parking gate open in the afternoon and close it. We don't want the gate open all the time, because just for the safety of our campus. But in the morning, if we were to move some cars, 10, 15, 20 cars out the back gate, exit only, just to relieve the number of cars that are coming between exiting our driveway onto Stevens Street. That would help us out an awful lot. So the data was done. I think there were 2 different days of data. One day was done when we had the Cardinal was supposed to come for a special mass. So the parking lot was empty because we reserved it for our guests. And what we worked out with Lowe's is we took all our teachers and students down to Lowe's, and we ran our shuttle buses from Lowe's parking lot. So we had our teachers and students coming to school that day. So the day they showed up for data, there were no cars in the parking lot, although we still had the flow. We had the regular flow of parents coming around the building, dropping off in the morning, and then picking up late morning that day. But we did have it ironic because we closed, we opened it, did our data, and then closed it for 3 more weeks. So instead of getting our data first, it would have been helpful that way. I think it's confused the neighbors a little bit as to why we closed it again, or confused some of our parents. But I'm out there every morning. We have a sign. I talk to parents. They roll their windows down. I tell them what's happening. So we're trying to communicate the best we can. But I did notice when we came back from mid-years, there was a little bit of a traffic jam by the science building once again. By having that closed back there, you could feel the little pressure, not to prejudice the situation, but an honest feeling is it seemed like there were more cars again, and I realized the gate was closed. So it does help us a little bit. I hope it doesn't burden the neighborhood. Anything the neighbors have addressed, I understand what it's like to be in a neighborhood with a school, so I try to address that, talk to people, phone people, and get involved that way. But we try to answer anything we can with our neighbors. I mean, I think we gave a write-up this week that's kind of pointed out at the end.
Yeah.
Just a couple of things we've done as extra.
Yeah, we received one that was dated the 18th. It was from you to Mr. Clausen, our associate planner.
Can I just add one minor thing?
Absolutely.
Just so people know, I've been in 5 different high schools. This is the 5th high school. I have to tell you, the kids are excellent at this school. Number of suspensions as an assistant principal I had at the other school. You almost had a suspension before breakfast, before we could have breakfast. At this place, one student got suspended for being tardy. He was tardy too. It wasn't a fight. It wasn't a knife. It wasn't, viciousness. It wasn't disrespect to a teacher. He decided to be tardy the wrong day, so we sent him home. So we're pretty strict like that. The kids are good. We've had no problems in the parking lot. There was the neighbors have been good. They told us about a brown truck. We found out that wasn't one of our students. That was someone picking up a student. So we had the police follow up on that. So we could talk to that person, that we don't want anybody racing. And I think the person was just upset that day. That's all it was. Okay, anything else I can answer for you?
Okay, maybe we'll have some questions for you later. Thank you, sir, I appreciate it. Aaron, I know from the Division of Plan Development, you also gave us some background information. Is any comments you want to address towards us first before I turn it over further to more of the public hearing?
Sure, I could just address a little bit with the traffic surveys, how they were conducted, and how we ended up doing the before count after the gate was closed. Essentially, what we tried to do was get a traffic survey count of cars entering and exiting the site, a count at the Stevens and Parker intersection, Wilder and Parker intersection, and then a count at the back gate when the back gate was open. That was actually the first count that occurred, was the kind of after scenario where the gate is opened. And we counted 15 cars exiting back onto Wilder Street, 9 making a southerly turning movement, and 6 making a northerly turning movement. And the count for cars coming out of the site was pretty much in line with what Mr. Hart had provided in his original memo. We counted 132. I think his was right around there as well. And then after the 60-day trial, we weren't able to get a before count before the gate was open due to a number of reasons. Just coordinating was a challenge. So we ended up scheduling the survey after the 60-day trial, give it a couple weeks to allow people to get back to the normal scenarios, people, so they wouldn't be driving up to the back, finding out that it's closed, coming back around, and confounding the count in any way. And as Mr. Hart noted that our follow-up count also coincided with the unfortunate event, so we had to do it one more time, a third week out. And so we got a count showing basically the existing conditions with the gate closed. And it's, again, it's, basically in line with what Mr. Hart provided. There's,
Thank you very much,
around
Aaron.
130 cars exiting.
Now, did you notice many of the other cars cutting through many of the neighborhood streets, or just taking the right and the left?
No, there was, of these 15 cars that were exiting onto Wilder Street, they were all either making a right or left turning movement, no straight cut through, I think it's Elena Street?
Edda Street, is it?
Edda
Road?
Street.
Edda Road, right.
Yep,
That's what the map
Road,
shows.
exactly, yep. No cut-throughs on that from the day we did the survey.
Thank you. Anyone else want to speak on behalf of the on Lowell Catholic issue at this point? Yes, sir, if you come forward and just give us your name for the address, if you would, please.
My name is David Radnoff. I live at 21 Galligan Road. My concerns with the back gate, my front window looks right into their parking lot. I've never seen anybody at the back gate monitoring anybody. Cars that do exit there come up my street, Galligan Road. They exit out of the back parking lot, take a right on the Galligan Road. I have all the overflow parking on my street. I can't back out of my driveway because they're blocking the end of my driveway. This has been going on an issue since I've owned the house for 7 years. They do race up and down my street, but every school in my neighborhood has a one-way street for schools. Lowell Catholic has nothing around it. I have Washington School, one-way street. Every street around that during school hours, one-way street. Lowell Catholic, nothing. There is more than 15 cars coming out of that back parking lot in the morning. Also, my concerns are when they do have activities at night, all their lights are shining into my house and on my street. They're parking in front of fire hydrants. I count anywhere from 18 to 20 cars on my street. I was told that it's a public street, they can park here. But they're interfering with my house, my lifestyle, trying to get out of my driveway. My other issues are, I had to call the school numerous times to try to speak to somebody about shoveling their back sidewalk. I finally spoke to somebody, I'm not sure, I never met this gentleman before. But I did speak to him on the phone. He did clear it, but it was like 3 weeks after when I finally got through to him. We do have a lot of kids walking to the public schools in our neighborhood. Elderly people also walking through our neighborhood in the morning, trying to get to the Daly or the Bailey School. They walk up my street. We have no sidewalks on my street. And with the cars, especially in the wintertime with the snow backing off into the street, I can't even park in front of my own house, let alone all the students pulling into our driveway to turn around, back out. We have one in the afternoon. It's really crazy when all the parents are picking up their children, parking on both sides of the street. You can barely get a car down the street, let alone either way. It's like when we got the letter stating that they were going to open the back gate, in the original plan, this gate was never to be opened. If they're concerned about the safety of their students, they need to be concerned about the safety of the neighborhood children and the elderly. And they're also parking on the sidewalk on Stevens Street. I do have one car that's continuously there, and it's a white Lexus, and I have the plate number. Parks on the sidewalk where you have to walk on the street. And I seen somebody in a wheelchair have to go around that. The lady just stood there on her phone, didn't care, picking up her child there. But this is my concerns and my issues, especially living on Galligan Road where they're all parking on my street. When they expanded the parking lot, we were told that every student would be able to park in that parking lot, regardless. It's not. It hasn't happened. From the original plans when they decided to enlarge the school, now that they increased their student body, it's affecting the neighborhood by parking on our street. And as I was told by an officer, it's a public street, they can park anywhere, they pay their excise tax. But when you have students coming from New Hampshire, they're not paying their excise tax. I know I'm just starting to ramble on this, but I do hope some will be resolved about this, if they can expand their parking lot to alleviate it, or find a different approach, but that back gate, and it's also opened at night too when they have activities going on at the school. And it is open longer than 7:25 to 7:45. That gate, it gets open about 7 o'clock in the morning and doesn't close till 8 o'clock in the morning. That's all I have to say.
Okay, thank you, sir. Anyone else want to speak on the issue? Yes, sir.
Good evening. John McDonald, 8 Wilder Avenue. I, as most of the neighbors, received a letter from Lowell Catholic notifying us that they requested the planning board allow a test to allow the opening of the rear gate. The letter stating the gate would be controlled from 7:25 to 7:45, and they would be outside monitoring its usage. Never was monitored. I have pictures that I took that I quit taking on my cell phone to test to that there was never any monitoring in the back gate, that they had stated clearly in their own letter that we would certainly be outside monitoring its usage. Never happened. Lowell Catholic also wrote that there was a safety issue on campus where students and teachers had to cross in front of an area exiting between the two buildings. Why is it that Lowell Catholic's burden always becomes the neighborhood's burdens? Why do the homeowners, taxpayers of the city, have to take on Lowell Catholic's burdens from trash issues, construction issues, water issues from the construction of the new building that hasn't been addressed, parking issues? Clearly there's more students parking in and around the school than they have issued permits. The streets are clogged up due to the lack of the parking spots at the school. Safety issues, traffic issues. The back gates being closed was a promise to the neighborhood, and we expected Lowell Catholic and the city of Lowell to keep up with that promise. Lowell Catholic claims that the safety of people walking from one building to another on their own property is a safety issue, and they wish to renege on that promise and redirect their issue and their burdens of safety to the neighborhood. Again, becomes a burden of the neighborhood. I think it's wrong. And the neighborhood is full of young families who walk to school. I have young children who walk to school every morning. They walk right past that gate. We have elderly in the neighborhood that get up in the morning and they walk throughout the neighborhood, and it's been a blessing not having that back gate open. It really has. Allowing cars to spill out to the back gate, once again, is wrong, and I think it's a safety issue for the neighborhood, as it was originally determined by this very planning board. As a direct abutter, a member of the community, I adamantly oppose allowing the back gate to be reopened at any time. And I wish that they'd stick to their original agreement and their original promises. I want to thank you guys for your time, and I appreciate the opportunity to speak this evening. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else like to speak on the issue? Yes, sir. Is there anything to clarify, or? I'm sorry? Yeah, I couldn't hear you correctly. When you asked... Clarify? May I clarify? Sure, if you want to make if you want to say something, sure, you can go right ahead.
I'm the new guy on the block, literally, and I realize what's come before. I've researched as much as I can. I realize they're young families, and maybe I'm wrong in stating making it seem like it's just the safety between the two buildings. It's also the safety on Stevens Street, which involves their streets. and those people going to work. And if we reduce a little bit of the stress coming on to Stevens Street from our school, and once again, people don't honk at us. People are very nice, coming and going on Stevens Street. To me, as an outsider, it's unbelievable. I thought people would be upset with our parents, but they understand, they come in, they wait, no one's cutting anybody off. Whether they're coming from the city or going to the city, they let our people come in. So people are very polite. People are driving safe, safety conscious for their children and for other people on the road. As for the street, I mean, I'm not in charge of the street. It's out of my jurisdiction, but I own it because they're my kids. And John, one of our neighbors, called and said you had 2 kids in front of the hydrants. I popped right out there. One kid was in front of the hydrant. I put a note on his window under his window wiper, windshield wiper, that the other end, the person was safe. So I just saw him. I said, just be careful how close you park to it. I didn't leave a warning because he was legal. But most of the kids, they reacted. The students, if we just meet with them quickly, anything that the neighbors need, we usually get from the students. Whether it's parking, we went out there in the fall, set up cones so the kids knew where to park. They can legally park there, but we want to make sure they're not blocking driveways. I haven't heard of one driveway being blocked this year. Maybe in the past. I've heard of those stories, but I can't take care of the past. All I can do is improve the future. And this step is an improvement for the neighborhood and for the school. And we were all in this together in the same neighborhood. I'd hate to think that if our school wasn't there, what would be there would be maybe even scarier. Right now, I think we have it open in the morning a little bit. We have it open in the afternoon. We want it closed, too, for our protection. As for when I was called, Dave did call a couple of times, but when he called me, he has to admit that sidewalk, which I wasn't familiar with, but as soon as I found out that our custodian's supposed to snow blow that was snow blowed before lunchtime. That was snow blown before an hour went by, which I thought was a pretty good reaction after snow blowing the whole night. So anything they need, we usually react to, but we need to be in this together. I had one neighbor come across, drive in, and just said, one of the kids has his lights on. That's all. I mean, it was just such a thoughtful thing. These neighbors are so nice. He comes in, he says, one of the kids has his lights on. Obviously, he doesn't have a new car. I thought it was a teacher's car at first because it was so old, but it was a kid's car, and the guy was nice enough because and I know the battery would have been dead. And most students don't know what to do when their battery is dead. So, some of the things as to monitoring, probably the key thing. If they'd come on campus, they'd probably see me. I'm the tall guy in the blue. I'm halfway down or I'm at the top of that lane. I didn't say I was going to guard the gate, but it's such a small parking lot, I can be halfway down or all the way up. Still doing my job with everything else, but encouraging people to use it. I mean, we did run into several people that used it. They were right. We were right. Some people who try to use it, sneaking backwards, we grabbed them. We haven't had repeat offenders. I think we can't ask for anything better than that. It was a new idea to them, and so they had to get acclimated as to how we're going to use it out of respect to the neighborhood. So all this is part of I'm wrong to say it's safety just for the 2 buildings. I think that surprised me. I thought that was an offshoot that, when you learn these things, it said, wow, that's a problem. But also, I think the way Galligan enters onto Stevens Street or goes out by we're in touch with Washington administration, Washington School, because we're all in the same neighborhood. So I think it's something to consider. It's for 15 minutes, 20 minutes. It's never been open at 7 o'clock. I'll get fired if I have to. It was never open at 7 o'clock. If anything, it's opened at 7:30. We've always tried it. Have we forgotten? Yes, one day he was called for a heating thing. I thought Buster had it. My fault, his fault. It was late getting closed, but someone called. We closed it right away. And we're always down there. Either Buster's watching it or I'm watching, so I don't want to go on too long with that.
So besides yourself, somebody else monitors that gate as well?
Buster Nugent, maintenance. He and I are always out there. He's usually higher up on the stairs in front of the wellness building. He sees the whole parking lot. I take the far side because I'm concerned with that side too. Plus, I have 3 teachers. They've never been out there before. We've never had teachers on duty for some reason. I have 4 teams of teachers. So every day there's a different team, but there are 3. They work as a team, covering the building, covering the the driveway or the front.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
I'll let you speak for a minute, and then I'm going to turn it over to the board. Yep.
With all due respect, sir, and I appreciate your position, I've been living in the neighborhood for 11 years, and the relationship between Lowell Catholic and the neighborhood has not been ever at a point where it's been a great relationship. It's never been a good relationship. It's been consistently bad for the neighborhood. all due respect, I understand this gentleman's new to the school. I haven't personally seen him out there. I've driven by there numerous times, whether it's halfway at the front of the school, whatever it is. I've never seen him. Not to say that he wasn't there. I've never seen him. But the job was to monitor the back gate, and the back gate was not monitored. So I'd like to bring that up, and also like to, if this gentleman's interested, concern some of the other issues that have been numerous through the years, and willing to participate in any kind of forum, any discussion with Lowell Catholic High School, and I've initiated those discussions with the chairman of the school on several occasions, of which they left and nothing happened. So, this is just a consistent trend with Lowell Catholic, consistent reneging of promises made from construction on and on and on, and it's just been a series of events that have continued to make a negative impact for the neighborhood. So again, I appreciate the opportunity to respond to these comments. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else want to speak before I turn over to board members? Yes, sir.
He's, Mr. Hart states, he's Stephen Street. He's not addressing the other streets in the neighborhood. Stephen Street is a very busy street, but he's not addressing the other streets in the neighborhood. Galligan Road, Wilder, Etta, all the ones around, Frank Street, which is at the bottom of Etta Road. He's not addressing these issues of the street, especially Wilder with the school. Washington School's right down the street. My son goes to Washington School. He's lucky he gets to cut through my backyard, and he's right there at the school. But John's children walk down Wilder Street. It took, when I called about the back sidewalk, Mr. Hart didn't know about it, but it was untaken care of for 3 weeks. By calling the school, oh, we don't know who's handling that. We don't know who's who. Finally, I got to speak to Mr. Hart about it. Yes, he took care of it right away, and that was great. But our concern is Galligan Road, Wilder, not Stephen Street. Stephen Street has sidewalks. My street does not. Thank you.
But just addressing that, obviously, Stevens Street is the main flow of traffic. There's no doubt about it.
But now with...
Back up over here, please, if you would.
Sorry.
Okay. But I mean, we all know that the major cut-through of that area is all Stevens Street.
Since the back gate has been open, since the lights have been put up on Parker and Stevens,
Which we made Lowe's do when they came before us to alleviate that traffic. That was a condition
but
the
now
board
with the
imposed on that.
school,
Right.
Galligan Road has become a very busy street, very dangerous street. There's 3 houses on my street,
Okay.
and I got 20 cars parked on the street. I have 3 houses. I can't park in front of my own.
All right. Thank you, sir. Okay. Any further comments from the public? If not, I'll turn it over to any of the board members who have any questions. Any board members have any comments, concerns?
Mr.
Fischette,
Chairman,
you want to start?
if
Or
I
any
may.
questions? You got any questions for anybody, or?
A lot of issues, what may appear on the surface as a fairly innocuous request here, I think is, I was not on the board at the time. I know you 3 gentlemen were serving on the board, but I was actually at the meeting when this project was originally approved, and I was actually surprised with the amount of residents that were there concerned and somewhat in opposition. And I can recall this being a condition that was important to people, that it would only be open in the afternoon, it would not be open in the morning. And I'm a little sensitive to having large projects approved and having conditions on them, and then to basically satisfy the residents' concerns at the time and then coming in to amend them. Now, I understand the school has evolved and the needs have evolved, but perhaps it wouldn't have gotten to where it is had the opposition been looked at and the project not even gone forward at that particular time. So having looked at this and understanding the issue on Stevens Street, and I can see where this would relieve it, but it certainly creates a steam valve in another part of the neighborhood. And I have to comment that the lights have perhaps made the intersection safer, but now it has created a controlled intersection that you can enter from some of those side streets. So it's really created an interesting situation around the school. And I don't think anybody would argue any school in the city of Lowell has a tremendous challenge. I drove my children, I still drive my youngest to the high school every day. So, and I've dropped off my children and picked them up and seen our fellow residents do stupid things on the road and park in the middle of the street and drop the kids off and not be as considerate as we'd like to think they would be. And it just, and it's a challenge. It's a challenge for any resident, any neighborhood. I will comment in the sense that I'm surprised, and I was happy to hear that the abutters received letters, and that was a big concern the first time that this was brought before us, because of that very concern of how many residents were at the original meeting and had expressed several concerns, this being one of them. I'm a little disappointed there's not more residents here this evening. I'm assuming that in the letter, or you were aware of the meeting this evening. Is that correct?
Well, just to clarify, the first letter
Yeah, sure.
that was issued late, and very few of the neighbors had actually received the letter. Then, when the meeting was postponed from the last meeting, the original hearing was a month ago, was supposed to take place last month, and they postponed it, another letter went out that was not from Lowell Catholic, was actually from you folks, the planning board. We did receive that, I felt, on a timely basis, but the first letter was not received on a timely basis. It was actually, I think, 2 days before the actual hearing that I had received the letter, and most of my neighbors had not received the letter at all. So we took it upon ourselves in the neighborhood to send the letter out. Then the meeting was postponed, so I don't know how many neighbors actually received the second letter that went out. So it was not a very timely or efficient basis, to answer your question, sir.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Aaron, on the list of letters that I'm assuming you sent those out, is that correct? Do you have the list of abutters, or how was that?
No, the school sent out the letters. The first one was drafted by the school. The second one I went hand drafted for them.
And then they sent it out?
Just to make sure that
Yep.
the time of the meeting was clear, because of the kicking it out to this meeting.
Right.
And then it was given to the school to send out to the list of abutters.
Right. And as I sit here, I see the value in what the school is requesting. I see the concerns of what the abutters that are here have expressed. I can remember originally looking at this, and a comment is the gate open in the evening, Mr. Hart? For any events, does that gate open up in the evening? No. Okay.
Closes after, I think the product comes in at 3:45, so it closes then. Have we missed it a couple of times because of changing staff years?
Sure.
We reacted that quickly, but it's
Sure.
not that I know.
I mean, what I would be looking to propose here, and see my colleagues would be willing to go along with this, is I really would be looking to allow this, what's being requested for the remainder of the school year, and for us to reevaluate it at the end of the school year. I do have concerns when a large project comes forward and conditions are placed, and really to address concerns. And, I sat on at the other end as a neighborhood representative, and you walk away feeling like, well, the board put some conditions on there, and that's going to safeguard us, and then all of a sudden, it changes. And what you thought part of what allowed the project to happen is now taken away. And so that's a concern. There are other very busy establishments within a particular period of time that are required to have police detail to make sure that people can get safely in and out. And, that may be an option, I don't know. I would like to see it, again, as a trial for the end of the school year. I personally intend to spend a lot of time up there observing it and getting a good feel for what's happening to the neighborhood as well. And a safety concern, I think there's safety all the way around. Regarding what's happening at the back end, allowing that to become basically a steam valve, releasing pressure out the back end of the site versus onto Stevens Street. But that's my thoughts on that, Mr. Chairman. That's certainly what I would be proposing in this particular case. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Fisher. Mr. Lockhart, any questions?
Yeah, I do. I would be willing to go along with that. However, I think,
you know, in the meantime, if there's things within the neighborhood that are aggravating the neighborhood, that they should be addressed, as, you know, immediately with whatever measures we think are appropriate. I do have a couple of questions. Getting a conflicting message about the monitoring of the gate, hearing two different things here. Mr. Hart, could you give us a description of what your current procedure is here throughout the day or in monitoring that back gate? You have something in place that,
We're only talking about the 20 minutes in the morning, so it's not monitored in the during the
it.
day. Just in the morning, Buster usually, I meet Buster, I've set the 3 teachers up, people are coming, setting up that way, kids are coming and going, you're handling different things, but I'm usually, there are 2 lanes, the parking lot has 2 lanes
Right.
that lead to the back gate. I stand in the one that is directly in front of the back gate. So Buster's opened the gate, he's on the stairway and watching the stop sign, I watch the rest of the place. I walk halfway down. Usually when the seniors and the juniors are driving in, I walk down, so there's a presence down there. The kids, there's never been a problem. I'm used to parking lots where kids smoke and kids are up to other things, and big parking lots. At Reading Memorial, we used to have 4 parking lots. So this is almost it's a small parking lot, but you can see everything from where I am. If I go down and guard the gate, that may make people happy, and maybe that's what you'd expect me to do. But I think I'm drawn up here, I'm tall, I can see things, I can react to things. And if I have any reputation, it's a school, it's to react to things. If someone tells me, a student, I'll follow that car into the parking lot. I've followed cars out onto Stevens Street just because they've driven the wrong way. So my job is basically to keep an eye on that gate, to monitor that gate, not guard it, not to collect tokens or anything, but just keep an eye on that gate. Make sure it's open, make sure it's closed.
so while it's open, it's being monitored.
It's being monitored. It's either Buster, or I'll wave the Buster if I have to go inside, or go down the sideways. I'm sorry?
From somebody outside the building, yourself or your custodial staff?
Yes.
Okay.
And he's head of maintenance. So, you know, if it's every single minute, no, I'll be honest, no, it can't be.
Oh, all right.
But I'll tell you,
While it's
it's
open, you're monitoring.
I'm new, I know it's been cantankerous, and it's unfortunate, but I don't don't look forward to a relationship with a neighborhood that's cantankerous. I'm not that way, I want to work with them. You know, it's my behavior that's going to say more than words in front of you. But if they talk to some of the neighbors have told me they're not going to show up because they said it's only 15 minutes. If we were asking for the gate to be open the whole day, to come in and go, and I mean, that'd be silly. That'd definitely go against what was originally planned. This is almost like an evolution. It would be safety. It would help us out on the streets also.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I do have another question for
Sure.
you. On this traffic count that we got, it says the Lowell Catholic High School letterhead on it. I assume it's from
That's
you.
probably the original.
Yeah, it's got some numbers here. It says the average number of cars per 5-minute periods during the time in our request appears below, and you've got it broken out from 7:30 until 7:50
Right.
with a quantity of vehicles next to each. Just a point of clarification, those numbers are vehicles that are entering Stevens Street?
Entering our driveway at that time, yes.
Entering the
5 minutes or
driveway or exiting onto Stevens Street?
Not excellent. Some of them would be parking, teachers or students would be parking, or there'd be parents leaving. So it's a combination. I just took how many were coming during the 5 minutes coming off of Stevens Street.
Oh, coming into the,
Coming into the driveway, yes.
okay, all right,
So it's about an average of 3 days or so.
all right, fine.
Okay.
And just one other thing. What, do you know the capacity of the parking lot? The gentleman that spoke about Gallagher Road there in
102 spaces? Trying to
102?
think. Yeah. It's all marked. It's faculty, students. So I'm guessing there are 50 students, and there's probably, I think, 51 of staff, administration, and
Right, so
faculty.
during the day, you're comfortable with the number of spaces you have? You have excess, would you say?
Extra?
Yeah,
We keep 2 for subs. We have 2 for visitors out front. We have one extra one that almost is for an extra sub if we need it. They told me when I came in the summer to anticipate that's where the snow pile was going to go, but we talked to our snow plow guy and said we need all the space we can get. So he's been very good at clearing that. So we probably have that one space as an extra. I mean, even when, example, getting along with the neighbors across the street, Mary, her grandson, I mean, when they did the construction in front of her house, her daughter Laurie came home from work at night, from a night shift, had no place to park, so we parked her in our back lot, 2 days.
All right, so you're comfortable with the level of your parking capacity there?
They brought up a good idea, either John or Dave brought up the idea. They've talked about, before my time, and this will continue, they're looking to expand the parking lot.
Okay.
Okay, use some of the, I'm not sure where the space
What
would
about in
be.
the evening when there's athletic events? Is that when you,
Nothing too, I mean, we have basketball. Other than that, hockey's off campus.
well, he was talking about parking on Gallagher Road. They're up and down the street there, is that correct?
Gallagher, yep.
During the day?
They park next to the school. I've never seen anybody park on the other side except one.
Right, so is
I
that,
haven't seen them blocking in, so that I would want to know. I mean, anytime I've been out there, you know, probably every other week. They park right next to the school.
Right, on the
And
school
there's a
side.
hydrant at the beginning, there's a hydrant at the end, so those are the things the kids have to be careful of.
is that street pretty full of cars? Is that, yeah?
12 to 16 cars. That's all
12
it
to
was.
16 on Gallagher Road, okay, good. That's all I have, thank you, Mr.
Thank you.
Chairman. That's an issue.
Thank you, Mr. Luckhaupt. Mr. Claremont, any question?
Yes, thank you. Just a couple, Mr. Chairman. Aaron, how many notices went out to the abutters, if you know?
I don't know, I don't have a copy of the abutters list.
Okay. I want to ask the gentleman that lives on Gallagher Road, you were
Can you come up, please?
you were noting some concerns regarding the cars that were parked and at some point couldn't get out of your driveway, that type of thing. Any difference that you noticed when the gate was open as opposed to the gate was closed, or is that a constant issue?
Over the past 3 years, since the school has been gaining more students, it's more cars. During construction phase, when they were doing the auditorium and the new science building, I had a 20-foot dirt pile in front of my house. There's a fence right there, all that, but all the cars park on, if you're facing towards Stevens, they all park on the right-hand side. What I meant by blocking my driveway is they're parked at the end of, parked right across from the end of my driveway. Now with the snow here, they're farther out. I can barely back out of my driveway. Morning time, my wife leaves before I do. I have to pull my car out and have to fight the traffic coming up. I'm sorry, I don't have my glasses, I can't see your name. The gentleman that you brought up, the issue about the cars coming into the parking lot, that's their count coming in, but nobody's counting the cars coming out of the parking lot.
I understand that.
And they're coming out, they're taking a right, blocking, coming up my street. And then you have school buses coming down and all this, but the gate is not being monitored. Yeah, he's in the parking lot, but he's way up here. He can't stop the cars from going out there.
I guess what I'm wondering, you may have some issues concerning parking in and around your home, but is that related to whether or not the back gate is open or closed, or is that just a constant issue that you're?
It's, if, with the back gate open and the cars parking on the street, the influx of traffic has increased, making it unsafe on my street and also on Wilder Street, because the cars are being exited and then they're coming up a street that's already blocked with cars from the school, and now we have cars coming up and down the street. Only one car can go up at a time.
Are the cars that park there primarily student cars?
Yes.
Or are any parents that are sitting there waiting to pick
In
up
the
children?
afternoon, that's when we have the parents picking up. They'll be parking on both sides of the street. In front of my house, in front of the Thomases, in front of Kapalakis' house, and Bob's house. It's 3 houses. They're parking on both sides of the street, blocking the street, where definitely one car can barely make it down. Either direction, one has to wait till the other one goes through.
It sounds like your parking issue may or may not be something that the gate will impact that much on, but I know around Lowell, some of the residences there have signs that they get from the city that they post in front of their house, their gate or whatever, that restricts the parking just to the residents. I don't know if that's something you can look into with the city.
We looked into it because it's a public street. It's not, because there's only there's only houses on one side. The other side is just a chain link fence. And when Mr. Hart was talking about the cones that they put out, the cones were only to protect the grass that from the sewer project they're doing, they just hydro-seeded the lawn right there. That's the only reason why the cones were out there.
Okay.
All
All
right.
right, thank you. That's all right, Mr. Chairman.
Just a couple of comments I see is, I know that Lowell Catholic did their traffic study, and I also know that we had Division of Planning and Development kind of do their traffic study, and just from some of the comments that we've received from our planning department were that the impacts on Wilder Street, they thought basically was relatively minor for the cars leaving. And actually, they noticed that as a result of the back gate being open, they had the benefit of seeing students actually walking through that entrance from Wilder, because the gate is not pedestrian friendly, so you couldn't even walk through there if the gate's closed. So no students can even come in that back way. It also went on and said that most of the cars that come out, they went out to Wilder, which is less congested than Stevens, and they encourage that some cars do go through Wilder, because as the planning department indicated was, Wilder is being known as a collector street, which is traffic is supposed to travel on, and as a result, 0 cars cut through Etta Road. So none of them cut across and down the street, which I know when we had the first hearing back in December of '06, that was one of the biggest concerns of most of the neighbors, that would be cutting directly across and down their road. And after it came back for modification, believe it or not, we had people from Etta Road come and testify to us. As a result of that gate being open, they were surprised that they did not have those people cutting through their neighborhood. And I remember it was kind of surprising to me that people took time out of their evening to come in and tell us that that project was working, when usually we don't get positive feedback from people who sit through a planning board meeting and tell us as a result of the gate, it didn't affect them, and they were surprised that it didn't affect their neighborhood with that cut through. I understand some of the concerns that have been raised. I think some of the issues are, if that gate's open or closed, are you still gonna have people parking on the streets in the neighborhood? Yes. I don't think those cars are gonna go anywhere. I understand the school got a little bigger. I also understand that some of the traffic congestion is coming from St. Margaret's. There's no doubt about that. And you do have to indicate the other school down the street. I mean, we all know how close St. Margaret's is to Lowell Catholic. I mean, when I was at St. Margaret's, it was, Keith Hall, and we walked over there for certain events. So the only question that's really before us is the impact from the 725 to 750. I know Mr. Hart said he's new addressing the issue. He indicates he's out there. He gave us a report that another gentleman's with them, and they're cutting down on it. And he also indicates, when things have come to his attention, that he's acted swiftly on that. Will the parking stop on the side streets, whether the gate's open and closed? I don't think so. So I have no problems on going along with the recommendation by Mr. Figet, if we keep it open for a period of time, for a little further, to help monitor the situation, to see if it gets any better or worse. But one thing I did like to see is the students coming from Wilder Street be able to walk through there, instead of have to walk all the way around to come through the front door. I mean, so we're looking at, does it benefit anybody in the neighborhood? Absolutely. So, I mean, if I was a parent, you think I'd be happy having my kids go through the back gate? Absolutely. And to have people from the school monitor it? Absolutely. And the fact that our planning department says there's 0 cars cutting through Etta Street, and it was a lot minor. I also know that our planning department indicated, and as a condition that this board imposed, which I said earlier, was part of the Lowe's construction, that they monitor, that they put that new light in. And Lowe's says, fine, we'll put lights all the way down Stevens Street as far as you want us to. Lowe's was willing to do any condition that we mentioned, and that was a recommendation of our planning staff that came through our traffic engineer. So I think some of these are works in progress, and I think with that light, our planning department says that the traffic moves better with that new light put in there than prior to that light put in there. And I know things might change when Lowe's gets there, but as a result of that light in, that helps move the flow of the traffic. And I believe what Lowell Catholic is trying to do is to move the traffic along, not to stall the traffic. If it stalls the traffic, then I think we have more of a congested issue. And then that's when people try to stop passing cars that are parked there, and that turns into another whole safety issue. So it does come down to a question of safety, and I think the fact that the Stevens Street thing is flowing pretty well, and actually, no one's indicated that it's not flowing well. We have no complaints that Stevens Street's backing up. We have no complaints that the purpose that this board set in mind to keep the flow on Stevens Street is not working. The idea is to open the back for a short period of time to monitor it just for the morning. And I can understand when we approve something, if things come back to us for amendment, we've had things that come back that we make conditions, we've said amendment, and they come back and said, you know, things aren't working out the way the planning board requested, so it can be amended. So, absolutely, we're always willing to come in for amendment things. I know they're getting more students there at the school. I mean, that happens. If they had less students there, I'm sure they wouldn't be here asking for this. That's part of the reality. I know the school's been here for a long period of time. I know I understand concerns of when they do construction in your neighborhood. I knew the concerns we had when we first had the public hearing, the people across the street with the lights into their windows and stuff of that nature, and they understood to be a work in progress. So I think from the traffic data that we've received from our planning department, who've gone out there, not on this occasion, but on the previous occasion, when they come up for modification, on both times, our planning staff, who stood out there themselves and monitored the traffic, indicated that it was very minor and it did not have an effect on the traffic pattern. Is it gonna take cars off the street parking there? No. So, as I said, I'd have no problem going along with doing the trial period a little further out, from 7:25 to 7:50 in the morning. Mr. Fischette mentioned to the end of the school year. I mean, we're now in February to see if this period can work. I take Mr. Hart at his word. If he's out there trying to work the situation out, when he's been called upon things, he's new at things, that he'll be willing to work with the neighbors. And I know if that does not work, then we'll be hearing further from the neighbors. So I think it's a reasonable request to try to make some of these safety issues in place. And I think by opening it, I mean, the biggest thing I like is really the students walking through the back gate. I really think that's a safety issue as a student, instead of cutting all the way around. And if they say none are going down Etta Road and they want Wilder, and I see the big traffic concern is when the cars are trying to head out towards where Lowe's is going to be, as you indicated, back towards 110. And I think when they go to Wilder Street, by cutting through at that point in time, it alleviates that backup. So, those are any comments I have. Any further comments by any of the board members, or? If
The
not,
only other additional comment I'd make, if this board is inclined to grant the opening under a trial basis, that would encourage the school to also consider the additional traffic mitigation measures. I know that Aaron had laid some out in his memorandum to Mr. Hart dated February 18th. And without, mandating one mitigation measure as opposed to another, going through those items and perhaps working with the neighborhood to mitigate the traffic and the parking issues. This is something that I think we'll be looking at again in the future, certainly by the end of the school year. But some of the things that were mentioned by DPD, such as requiring students that live within a certain distance from the school to walk and not to drive, encouraging the students to carpool to school, instituting a parking fee system, carpooling program for parents, encouraging parents to use the parking area to pick up their students as opposed to the streets, limiting parking passes, et cetera. But if you could go through those, I think that those are important, and you may have some ideas of your own. But I think it's an ongoing issue that's raised by the neighbors, and I think we need to work with them, and I know that you're committed to do so, to try and make it as best you can. So that'd be my only other comment.
Okay. Thank you. Any further comments from the board members? If not, we'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion that we would approve the opening of the back gate from 7:25, I believe, till 7:50 in the a.m. And for the board to reevaluate this at the close of the school year.
Motion is made. Any further discussion, comment?
And just to clarify too, that will have to be monitored that entire time. Someone's got to be out there to monitor while that's open.
Is that acceptable?
That's
Yes,
clear.
yeah.
Any further discussion on that? or we have-
And the school, you know, consider the
The mitigation.
mitigation.
Okay. So there has been a motion and
Second.
second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Chair votes yes. So the matter will be open for a period of time, and we will bring this back for review probably sometime in June when we can get a date certain from all parties involved, okay? Thank you very much. Appreciate your help, appreciate your input.
Before we leave that, do we want to set that date now so that the neighbors will know?
Do you know what's that June date? Do you have that?
I didn't bring it. I think we do have 2 meetings in June, so it could be the first or third meeting.
Do you have yours
Perhaps
with
the
you?
third meeting.
Let me see if I have mine with
Supposed
me.
to be
Hold
the
on.
third
June 7th.
June 7th.
June 7th is the first date in June.
And what's the, okay.
21st.
That is a Monday.
When's the end
Could
of
I,
the
could I
school
just
year?
make a request? That the actual date be sent directly to the abutters versus going to the school, through the school, and then sent out again, so we get proper notification? That,
Well, what we're doing now, we're gonna set it now for June 7th. If the school wants to send it out, they can, because usually if the city sends it out, then I'm gonna tell you, we're not gonna have the money to pay for it.
Yeah. What I would encourage you, and matter of fact, Jane Ginsburg is here, and she was very involved in the neighborhood group in the Highlands. I was involved in the neighborhood group. You gentlemen took the initiative to come here. I would make it a point to really talk to your neighbors. We got a June 7th date at the end of the school year. And if there really are any concerns, I've dropped leaflets and flyers in the neighborhood. I did hundreds of them. Attorney Flood can attest to that. And I would encourage it to be proactive on that, and that take ownership of it, and you know, hopefully we can get something that works for everybody.
all right, thank you for the advice, appreciate it, thank you.
Let me just clarify, so do you mind if we set that date for June 7th as part of the make of the motion?
As part of the motion, sure.
Is that acceptable to all parties?
That's enough time after the close of the school year, June 7th?
That's okay, you, Mr. Hart? Okay.
7.
All right, so we'll be back on our agenda June 7th.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very
Thank
much,
you.
appreciate you coming down tonight.
Thank you.
Aaron, can you let the record show that I abstained from voting on that matter?
I did, yeah.
Take it without. Yes.
Before we start the public hearing on Smith Street, I just request that, I omitted the fact that we do have the minutes for acceptance for December 21st, 2009. All board members have a chance to look those over, have any questions, concerns? If there's none, I'll entertain a motion to approve.
I make a motion to approve the December 21st, 2009 minutes.
I'll second that, Mr. Chairman.
Motion made and seconded, all in favor, say aye. Chair
Aye.
votes yes. Okay, those minutes have been approved. Okay, moving along, we have a public hearing, and this is 61-63 Smith Street, also known as Hogue Terrace. The Lowell Planning Board will hold a public hearing, excuse me, to hear all interested persons relative to an application by C&F Realty Trust for a development project located at the above address. The project proposal includes demolition of an existing two-family residence building and construction of 2 new single-family residential buildings. One single-family home is proposed on 6,489 square foot lot. The other proposal is for a 5,597 square foot lot, both with access along a common driveway from Smith Street. The project is located in the traditional multifamily zoning district and requires special permit approval under section 9.5 of the Lowell zoning code and site plan review under section 11.4 of the Lowell zoning code. May we hear the case for the applicant, if we could, please?
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, James Flood, 549 Rogers Street, Lowell, Mass., representing the petitioner, C&F Realty Trust, Arthur Faneras, trustee. Also with me tonight is Dean Jenkins of Jenko LLC, who would be the builder on the project. and who has been working on this project for a long period of time. I think as the notice stated, we're in front of you tonight for site plan approval and an Article 12 special permit for the premises at 63 Smith Street. And as the notice said, we intend to raise the existing two-family building that's there, and I think most of you have seen it, and construct 2 single-family homes on separate lots. Besides obtaining the approval from this board, we also have to appear in front of the Board of Appeals to request 2 variances, one for the frontage, minimum lot frontage, and also for the maximum front yard setback. We are on the agenda for the Board of Appeals next Tuesday. Also on the site is an existing 30-foot easement to allow access from Smith Street to the property that's shown as Lot 3 on that plan, presently owned by Russell Beebe and his wife, and Russell's here tonight. We have been dealing with Mr. Beebe, and we've reached an agreement that he has agreed to reduce his easement from 30 feet to 20 feet, and we've agreed to install a 6-foot vinyl fence on his property line in the back, along with a double gate to allow him access to that Lot 3. Premises will be served with a separate water and sewer line, and drainage will be subsurface infiltration systems. The 2 homes will have a common driveway, and the cost of maintenance will be shared 50-50 by the owners of lots A and B. Dean had a meeting with the abutters to the property. A lot of them are here tonight, and I think I'll turn it over to Dean. He can tell you what he discussed with the neighbors and what agreements he's reached, and then we can probably discuss the comments from the different city departments. I also have that I want to submit, I have some letters that we received from abutters in support of the project, and we also received an approval from the water department of our proposed line. I know there was a comment in there, but we did meet with them, and I have an approval, so I want to bring those up.
I also know that Adam spoke with them today and gave me an update prior to the meeting, which he'll share with the board, okay? Now, do you want to take a look at this first? See if that's what communication you had today when you talked with me earlier when we discussed tonight's meeting?
I don't know how to do this. I'm going to try to put this out front. I think this is the same list of items and so forth that I had met with the neighbors on previously on Saturday.
Want to put it on
And I
the
think I'm
desk
going to put
here?
it...
Yeah, can you maybe put it over here where,
or something?
yeah, that way we can, maybe put on the last council seat, maybe, or on the
Yeah, right
chair?
up on the arms there.
Yeah, I want to make sure that the neighbors get a view.
Oh, right up on the arms.
Does anybody from the neighborhood want them over here so they can see better? If people want to come up here and address and fill in by the council seats, that way they can see better, or? Sir, do you want to come over here? Can you see better? Okay. If anybody wants to come inside the railing to come in and see better, feel free to step up. I mean, we want to make sure we don't exclude anybody from everything, so anybody feels more comfortable sitting over here and looking as well, sure.
I guess, so obviously, let me introduce myself. I'm Dean Jenkins with Jenko LLC. I'm also a partner in this endeavor with Arthur Faneras, so I'm not just a builder here, I also have an ownership stake. And anyway, you know, obviously this is more than just like knocking down a house and building two. I mean, if you've been out there and you see the site, it is absolutely, you know, been deplorable. And you know, first of all, I want to thank the neighbors for waiting patiently. And then second of all, I took into account what was going to have to happen out here in order to be able to make things work appropriately. And the site is so bad. I first approached Mr. Beebe and tried to create a solution, a scenario for him because, you know, he passes and repasses his vehicle every day through that property. So, and then after that, I looked at the best use of it. I mean, it's a large tract of land, it really is. It's, it's over 13,000 square feet, so, or it's somewhere around 13,000 square feet, good-sized lot. Having done work in that area right there on Fernald Street and Lane Street and on Westford Street a number of years ago, I was familiar with some of the neighbors and so forth. And what I did is I sent letters to the neighbors and told them exactly what we were going to need to do. It's interesting that in this particular zone, and I think I'm correct in saying this, only in this particular zone, if you have more than one structure proposed, you have to go in front of the planning board. So for the longest time, we weren't sure that we had to come in front of this board, but it was determined that we did. And so anyway, with that said, I met with the neighbors, and obviously there's tons of concerns. There is literally a tree that's sitting, and if you look closely, you can probably see it up in the top corner. I don't have it in front of me here, but if you look, there's a tree that sits right next to the White House that leans over Mr. Pelletier's house, and there's also a big retaining wall that runs along the property almost the whole way out from a portion at the lowest height on Smith Street, and as you come in all the way in almost to the back part where Fernald Street would be, abutting that way, that there's a retaining wall made out of cinder block, basically. Okay, and that's in tough shape as well. But anyway, with that said, there's some trees that are along that property line, particularly the one in Mr. Pelletier's yard, that in taking down this house, that tree is going to come down with it. What I have done, and I've made a pledge to the neighbors, is that particularly those people, they've dealt with this property for a long time, and it sits right on that wall. My proposal was that I would take the house down, I would move everything further back, so that would take some of the stress off of that wall. I would probably lower the wall 3 or 4 different, maybe 2 to 3, brick levels, and to take off the height of it, because I don't think it's necessary to be that high. That I proposed to them that I would build a 4-foot vinyl fence along that, so once I fix and repair that fence and clear the trees or whatever has to take place there, that I would be willing to repair that wall and lower that wall to a better spot, because I think in grading wise, I'd be able to create that once I move these houses back. So, so I told them that I would do that, and that would be a condition, obviously any of the things that we discussed at that meeting, and if the board so chooses, I'd be willing to do all those things. I want to put a vinyl kind of picket fence, something you can see through, because again, you want to separate, but you want to be able to see too for safety purposes and create a visual barrier, but also, have it be functioning. So anyway, that's what we would like to do. There's so much problems along that wall. There are some stumps at Mr. Lemare's property that are like, he's got a garage that sits back there that literally has, he can't get at the back of it because this wall is so close to it, and your problem, and it's a big issue. So a big part of it here is repairing and replacing and fixing along that wall. I think in doing so, it's not just cleaning up that property. I think we're cleaning up that whole area. My proposal coming in to the location is, and I think, and I don't know if the board's aware of this, but we talked with engineering and so forth about us taking control of that whole frontage and kind of cleaning that all up as well. Some of the things that I've thought about here in the last 24, 48 hours or so is creating some lighting coming in, but kind of downward lighting, and because it's separated into 2 lots, I think that's an important factor here in separating into 2 lots. And I'll give you a history lesson as to why. I mean, there has been some properties where you got more than one house, more than one structure on a lot, and and I've built a couple of them, to be honest with you and frank with you, and actually down the road. But planning had actually been involved in one of the structures, in one of the properties that I built. And what I found out over time was, when you have a small 4-unit, 3-unit condominium type project, it's hard to maintain the management aspect of it, particularly in a tough economy. I feel like if you take two single-family homes here and you create lots, with them, you're gonna create two separate lots. The pride of home ownership and having those lots is an important factor here, I think, within this, and I think it would be a benefit to the neighborhood as well because of that. Because you don't have to worry about it being, two properties on one lot, condominium, separated. And what happens if one of them, what happens if somebody gets foreclosed, something happens, or if there's a problem, or somebody can't keep up? In this case, the home ownership aspect, I think, takes over, and it's an important feature within what we're trying to accomplish here. I don't know if there's anything else I'm missing with the neighbors, but basically, there were some items that repairing the wall, and in some cases, lowering the wall where I can, eliminating the home, obviously. I think once that home comes down, the stress level on that wall and opening up that site is going to be, tremendous help. That in and of itself, okay, that aspect is going to be, very beneficial to that wall and to that area. Then I can get to these trees. Then I can get to the rest of the wall in terms of repair. And then, obviously, once I build the homes, the style of the homes are not uncommon to what I'm currently building on. They're actually identical to what I'm building right now on Hastings Street. There's two single-family homes I'm doing there on Hastings Street that are both this exact style. I know there were some questions as to the design and so forth of them, the window sizes, and some of the questions that Aaron had presented was, so it's a pretty typical window size, actually, and it meets the building code for egress and for getting somebody out under an emergency situation and so forth. And, honestly, I take pride in the kind of houses that I build in the city. I think that they're the right kind of properties, and I think that, our success has been borne out by doing a good job in these projects and good job with these homes and adding a little extra flair to them. I will use a vinyl siding with cedar impressions and kind of a nice look to it. It will be have a porch to the front of them. I think that makes a nice entranceway into these. And our big thing here is that, look, we're in the business here trying to make money and build houses and do the right thing. The problem with it is that, the two lots here, we need to get the two in order to be able to do all that work associated with it. There's literally, I was trying to estimate it today, and there's literally $60,000 worth of work that I can put down before I dig foundation number one, and that excludes the demo in terms of the walls, tree removal, repaving, replant, bringing the water. And so there's a lot of aspects here to this that I'm hoping the board understands that I have a large site. I've got a lot of land, and, I'd like to have the ability to separate into two lots and do the things that I promised the neighbors that I would do and make it a part of it and bring that property back to life.
Thank you, sir. Does anybody else want to speak in favor of this project?
Do you want to hear from them, and then we'll go over the comments?
Whichever way when you say get back to them, I don't know if you want, which sequence you want to do it.
Why don't you hear from the neighbors? They've been sitting here a long time.
Okay, no problem. I have no problem with that. Anybody want to speak in favor, just give us your name and address. What happens is we get comments from all the other city departments, and every time we have a site plan review, and we have received some from the traffic engineer, from the wastewater department, from the Division of Planning Department. We also have some from traffic engineer. So some of these comments we will be addressing, but at this point I'd hear from the public, and I know Council and Mr. Jenkins also said we'll address those as we proceed in the public hearing. So we can hear from the neighbors this time. I'd appreciate it, sir. Just give us your name and address for the record.
My name is Russell Beebe. We have two properties, 16 Fernald Street and 75.1 Smith Street. Both of our properties are abutting said property. And we're actually on the other side of the property. All these fine people are on, the opposite side. And,
Will you be the property going into the left, the real big unit?
Yes, I believe so. That right-of-way, or that so-called
When you go into that driveway, the place to the left,
up to my property.
Okay, I know exactly.
Goes right into my property.
No, I know what you mean.
And, the trees are so old on that property that the squirrels literally are burrowing in the middle of the trees. Every windstorm, every little rainstorm, the limbs are falling all over the place. So I'm driving, I leave for work at 2 a.m. I'm driving down that little road there, and I got to move limbs out of the way, literally. Luckily, I have SUVs. I could drive over them, or. But it's definitely a step in the right direction, what Mr. Jenkins wants to do here, And, the place has been vacant for 2.5, 3 years. It's all boarded up. It's an eyesore. And he wants to beautify the neighborhood and the community. It's a plus, I believe. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, appreciate it. Yeah, absolutely. Everybody gets a chance to speak. Just give us your name for the record and your address, please, sir.
My name is Charles Ginsburg. It's directly in back. It butts my property.
And
My garage
what's
is
your address, please?
What?
Your address?
216 Western Street.
Okay,
That's
thank you,
my
sir.
property.
Okay, thank you.
And I'm not exaggerating. That bloody wall is this far from the rear of my garage. You can't even get behind to paint the back of the roof where it needs painting unless you get a contortionist. Frankly, I'm looking forward to see Hoag's Horror knocked down. And I like the idea of 2 houses owned by individuals so we won't have the future slums of Lowell. It will help the neighborhood. And I mean this sincerely. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else like to speak in favor of the project?
Don Pelletier, it's 208 Westford Street. I've been there for 49 years. And a couple of years ago, when Hank died, I guess his name was, his first name, Hank, that owned that White House there. And then after that, I had to pump water out of my cellar for about 14 weeks in a row. That's without stopping. So that's what I did is I went down to the fire department, and they came over because after March, we noticed that the snow was melting, and then all of a sudden, it's all icicled all the way around the house. That is coming out of the foundation and everything. So then I have this tree that I want down, so I have enough trouble with the water. I don't want that tree on top of my house. And whenever there's a wind, that tree rubs against the other tree. It rubs back and forth. So if you were to live there yourself, I think you'd want that tree down. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else like to speak in favor? Go ahead, ma'am.
Hello, I'm Jane Ginsburg, also at 216 Westford Street. I'm Charles's daughter. I, too, am heartily in favor of this project for all the above reasons. The side we have to look at, I call it the Hoag Horror, because years ago there was a movie, The Amityville Horror, and the side that's further away from us is even worse than what we have to look at. A number of years ago, my father and I had occasion to attend a so-called auction, and we saw different colored siding on this house, and this property was just a mess. And it was debris, it was a real dumping ground, and then I heard other reports about it, including needles, and we certainly do not need drug addicts going there, using the area as a shooting gallery. And the thought that there will be homeowners in these houses is certainly a plus. And thank you for your time and attention.
Thank you, ma'am.
Good evening. My name is Robert Lemire, and I'd like to ask your permission to speak on behalf of my mother, Regina Lemire, at 220 Westford Street, who is 94 and housebound.
Absolutely, sir. Maybe she's watching, she can hear what good you have to say about it.
Yeah, she is. This situation has been going on for years and years, and what Dean proposes is really a godsend to the neighborhood. For years, my mother couldn't allow the grandchildren to play in the backyard for fear that that wall would fall down. Well, eventually that resolved itself, it fell down. And it, in the course of time, had migrated into, you know, across the property line and actually lifted the garage roof off its footings there, or whatever. So we are wholeheartedly in favor of this project. And, you know, we have tried for the past 5 years to try and get the responsible people that kept changing, that owned the property, to do something with it, and they never did. So thank you for your time.
You're welcome, sir. You're welcome very much. Anyone else?
Mr. Chairman, members of the planning board, ladies and gentlemen. For the record, my name is Mark Goldman, 58 Oakland Street, Lowell, Mass. And I'm familiar with the area. I walk around that area quite a bit. This is a project that I believe fits the neighborhood character, as we know in the master plan and in various other plans in the city. This will fit very nicely. I've known the developer for many years, and his word is gold. And what he says, he means. And he does what he says. And I urge that this board unanimously approve this. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else like to speak in favor of the project? Anyone else in favor? In favor? Hearing none, that portion of the public hearing is closed. Anyone like to speak in opposition? In opposition? In opposition? Hearing none, that portion of the public hearing is closed. Before I close it completely, Mr. Flood, I'll get back to you if you want to go over the conditions, excuse me, not conditions, but the department's comments.
Sure, I think that's what we probably want to.
Do you mind if we start with the city engineers? Because I think that those are probably the most that I saw from my comment.
I have that in front of me.
Okay, thank you.
As far as Hogue Terrace is concerned, I spoke with Peter Maloney today. We are going to petition the city council to abandon any municipal rights in Hogue Terrace, but I don't see how anyone can convey it because I don't think the city owns it. So and Peter was agreeable to that we will petition to have it abandoned. We know about the plowing and trash pickups. House numbers, and the fire department also had a comment about that. Dean will work with the planning department to come up with some sort of a post on the front that'll have the house numbers and also have mailboxes up there because the postman won't go in there. Water and sewer, well, you've got the letter from the water department, and we've dealt with the sewer department, correct? They're all satisfied, and we're working with the city engineer's office. So we don't have any problems with any of these comments from the city engineer. We're willing to meet them all.
Okay. And also with the driveway permit, what's that? You have to get the driveway permit now as part of the building permit? Is that how that works?
Yeah. Permit. Yeah.
Yeah, they can go out and inspect, so even if you're not building 35-foot wide driveway, you do some green, so you create 2 parking spaces and not 12.
And it's through the engineer's office, too.
Right, because I know, when I saw this, that was one that we don't always usually see on our checklist, so
Yeah, it's
I had
through
a question on it.
Yeah, it's new, and it's through the engineer's office.
Okay, so that would be something that you'd have no problem working with the
No
engineer to
problem with them
obtain?
whatsoever.
Okay. All right, so I think that covers the city engineer ones. I noticed a couple of comments from Mr. Clausen from our social planning. Any issues you want to address on? He had a couple of questions, and a couple of issues. You want to go through those? A lot of narrative in the front, and he had most of the comments were, I believe, on the second page. I think the first one starts to
Well,
talk about the window frames and sills and
As
goes
Dean
down there
said,
for the trees and.
that's the kind of the standard house he's built in that neighborhood, and they all conforms with the requirements, and he'd like to stick with the plan that we presented to you on that. And I know Aaron's made a lot of comments about trees, and I think you've heard the neighbors that they have some problems with those trees there. I mean, Dean's willing to save what he can, but I think because of the tightness of this site, it's going to be difficult, because with the easement that's being reduced by Mr. Beebe on the side, and the driveways, it could be difficult. He did, though, we did discuss today, and I saw your comment about reducing the size of the driveway. We could do that, if that's the wish of the board. I just don't know what the fire department needs for a width. From my reading of the zoning, I think it's 12 feet, but
That's correct, for a,
feet. I think
for a
what's,
single family or two family, it's a 12-foot drive lane. In this case, it would probably be prudent to have it a little bit wider than that for the fire department.
I think what's there is now is 13. We'd be willing to go with that 13-foot width and just, improve it where we'd coat the driveway and make it new. But if that's your wish, the board's wish, we'll do that, right?
Yeah, and I think in doing so, that gets that entryway, Aaron, to the left, facing to the left, that allows some of that buffer to remain, some of those trees that are healthy, unworthy, in bad shape. It's once we, like we talked about, once you get around that bend, the issue becomes very difficult. It's in a couple of big, huge trees, and I need to, get Mr. Beebe the room that he's gonna need to be able to pass and glass comfortably on this side. But in the front, by doing that, by reducing that size down a little bit, I can clean that area up pretty good. I probably would take down a couple, because I think that it's really congested with trees, honestly. I'd take some down and then do some plantings or something along the way in, you know what I mean, to kind of like offset it a little bit. And frankly, I don't think I own that fence, and that fence is like,
Is that the one on the right going in?
I think, well, coming in, facing it from Smith Street on the left.
Oh, okay, yeah, the chain link
Okay?
fence.
So, so my problem there is that it's not a great fence, so I'd like to try to maybe do
Yeah,
some
that's going in on the left. right?
buffering, if I could.
All the way around.
So, actually, in regards to some of the tree situation, if we had like landscaping to work with the Division of Planning and Development, you wouldn't have a problem with that?
No, I wouldn't, and we spoke about it, just as long as, it's understood that part of it here is more, unfortunately, there's some economics involved in terms of like trying to create a better look for a sale, and I can do some nice buffering with some hardy plants and so forth that will grow over a period of time and kind of reduce the exposure of some of the fencing and so forth. And I just think, you think about those trees, there's so many coming in.
It is a lot.
10 years, what are they gonna look like, too? They're gonna be big, and then what? Then I'm gonna create the same situation that the neighborhood, wants me to take care of on their property, so now I'm doing it for the next guy, and, so I just think we should take care of it now.
Okay, thank you. Do you want to go further down the list then, Mr. Flood, if you could? I think basically moving along to the, moving the edge of the pavement, the access drive further towards the west. Okay, that goes back to the tree again.
I don't think we can do that, though, because there's only plan out. That driveway's 12 feet. It's a 20-foot easement. He's going to reduce from 30 down to 20. So that only leaves we can't be closer than 3 feet from the other house, so it really doesn't leave much room to move it over there. You only could move it a foot at the most, and that's the problem with that.
Okay, we talked about the,
There is some more room on it. You could reduce the width of that road too, but by the zoning
Mr. Beebe
ordinance.
wants a 12-foot through his easement, and I think where he's reduced it from 30 to 20, we should give him what he probably wants. Huh? Yeah. That's why that's that way.
we toss things around, obviously, see what sticks. So I think we talked about the fire apparatus. I think the next thing was talking about installing curbing on the northern side of the access drive, the possibility on that. Number
Curbing
5.
on the access drive?
Therein lies the rub. I think if you go to the pictures here, you'll see one of the pictures, I think, where I have at the opening a car. It kind of shows you the house that's on the corner of Westford and Smith. The parking there is such that they kind of park cars along that side a little bit. Right. And, the smart move here would be, and I did speak to Aaron about it a little bit, the smart move would be maybe, as I clean out and clear out the fence to the left, that's mine, and I work, maybe after a certain point, I go with the chain link to go along the side, or if I put the curbing in, you know, is somebody gonna be hopping that curve and still parking on that road? If it gets abandoned, I know, I still don't have an ownership stake in it, right? I don't own it, but there it is. So part of what I was thinking is that if we reduce the size of that road down to 12, but I created some sort of a fence, small fence, you know, short chain link fence, and brought it, and the reason chain link is the snow removal, it's a little easier with snow removal, but if I brought it closer to the pavement, then that would say to the gentleman who was parking cars, you know, on the inside, that they could park inside of that fence, more to the Westford Street side. I'm almost creating, you know, a little bit of an area that they can park in, you know what I mean, rather than blocking. I think that would probably, you know, be a better situation maybe than curbing it, but
Because there is a lot of on-street parking up there, there's no doubt about that.
there is. So, you know, now I think, I don't know, you know, I mean, whatever. I can leave it the way it is, and they'll park the way they park, and you know, Mr. Beebe's been doing it a long time with the neighbors there, and he's had a good response. They park over, you know, he gets along with them. They understand that he's got to come out in the morning early, and, you know, so it doesn't bother me whatever the board chooses to do, but I think by putting a curb there, now, what are we, you know, wow, what are we doing, you know, by doing that? I don't know if maybe that's the right way to go. Maybe I could put something there in terms of fence, you know, that would create something, keep them on the other side of it. I don't know, so.
He could reduce the entrance in. Technically, if there's an abandonment, the owners on both sides could say that they, you know, do own to the middle of the road, but we do have the right to pass and repass, and so does Mr. Beebe over that property, because it's in the chain of title. But that's why we really can't say too much about them parking there, but I think Dean's got a good idea by putting in some fence and reducing the entrance, so it's defined how you get in there, then they'd have a spot on the right to park.
Yeah, because even when you go in there now, there's people parking on the right going in.
Right all the way up.
Which I understand people by nature are gonna park there if people aren't using that driveway by the street. Right. Mm-hmm. Right. Look at the other matters here. Lighting, I think Mr. Jenkins indicated that at first, that he would try to put some lighting in facing down, so it wouldn't intrude on the neighbors. There was the numbers that came up by Captain Weber, and then also there was just, I know we do a new lead checklist.
If he, on the lighting, I mean, he's talking about putting some lights on either side, coming in, and subject to the approval of the planning department, if that's what you want.
Right. I think those addressed most of the comments by, okay, traffic engineer had approval. Like you say, I think the water utility needed more information, and they submitted something to you tonight. Aaron, do you have a chance to look that over at this point?
Yeah.
I know you talked to me briefly earlier before the meeting tonight. You said that, you know, Mr. Jenkins will meet with them today, and you had some communication with them before the meeting tonight?
Yeah, the conversation I had with Mr. Trainer at the water department, basically, he was describing to me what he agreed to, and this basically looks like it's basically a 2-inch copper line coming from the main to the first residential building, would have its own separate cutoff valve. The line continuing to the second building would be 1 inch with its own cutoff, and then there'd be another cutoff valve at the main, which it's what's showing on the plan here, so that makes sense. I don't just maybe incorporate it into the final plan.
Incorporation, you get incorporation from the 2 down to the 1 and split.
Right.
Okay, so that's satisfactory? Mm-hmm. Okay. So moving along, we had no issues with conservation, no problem with the police department, wastewater, our sewer services proposed for Hague Street private sewers. Was there any question they had there?
Private
Okay.
sewers, no, and we're working with the engineering department on the gravity flow right
Okay,
now.
and then just getting back to, I'm taking them in order from the fire department. It did talk about the numbers. It also talked about you have to have the carbon monoxide detectors as well as smoke detectors,
I
which,
think the reason for that is that the plans were probably prior to the carbon monoxide.
okay. I'm sure you have no problem with that,
He's
Mr.
gotta
Jenkins?
he's gotta get it
I know you gotta
anyways.
do the smoke detectors anyway, so now you just usually do a combination of 2 and 1, right?
You have to, you
Yeah,
need
so-
them, you need them.
But a lot of times you can have, yeah. And when those detectors, do you get the ones that do both the instead of putting 2 up, you just put the 1 up, right? That does the carbon and the smoke, right? So that way you don't have to install the two? Okay. So that's not an issue as well? Okay. Is this basically a picture of one of the things that you propose it to look like, basically?
Yeah.
Have the neighbors seen the pictures of what their proposals are? I mean, I know it's always nice to look up here and then, but you want to know what it looks like when it's done, and I know as board members, we approve things, and sometimes we go by and say, is that what we approved? Does it really look like that? But it's nice to see what a finished product is supposed to look like, and then if it doesn't, we get calls, and we're back here to start, so, I mean, but, so you all had opportunity to see these, and... Yeah, but we like to have it done, we like to have it done that it meets all the criteria of the board and make everybody happy and make sure we cover everything, so. Okay, is there anything further on the checklist, Aaron, or any comments you have as a result of discussion we had so far that we might have overmissed? Before I turn over to any questions from the board members, or before I actually close the hearing, we went through the checklist. Okay, at this point in time, does anybody else have anything else the public wants to be said before I close the hearing officially, before I turn over to board members? Hearing no further comments, okay. So the public hearing at this time is closed. I'll start with any questions or concerns from any of the board members. Mr. Clem, do you mind if I start with you? You have any questions, concerns?
I don't have much. I think it's, I congratulate you for taking on this project and cleaning up this area. I think, especially in this economy, it's a wonderful thing to get this straightened out. Just had a question. There'll be two single-family houses, but it'll be a shared driveway with
Common driveway, right.
like an agreement
Right.
to maintain that
We
common
will,
driveway?
we'll put an agreement on record. And it'd be very similar to the one on Clark Road that I've already previously
Right.
given you.
Right. And was there something about stormwater annual operations and maintenance? Is there a stormwater?
I think that's a requirement now of the engineering department. You'd have to submit it annually.
For every project? For every project?
Right, I think so.
Okay.
There'll have to be some sort of maintenance agreement also put in as part of the sale. It's 120 feet off the street for the furthest one, so you're probably looking at least two cleanouts there.
There's gonna be two, yeah.
Yeah, two cleanouts on that one on, we call it 63, the first one on the left. So those are gonna have some sort of, maintenance factor to them as part of, I don't know if you put it in the deed or not, but, we do. I put in the deed that talks about maintaining them, so. And you don't know, and I'll have it set up so that either Action Cam or one of the local people that do that type of clean out have already created a maintenance contract and the sale comes. So we just take over from there.
And you had made a comment early on, it just struck me that, you're building two single-family houses, but need to come before the board. I think that's probably in response to the fact that if this was just a vacant piece of land, it's not necessarily the type of thing that you want to put with a long driveway and two houses at the end of it. But in this particular case, we're cleaning up a situation that already exists with a existing two-family property that's in disrepair, so that's the reason for that, but I have no other comments. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Lockhart, you have any questions?
I concur with Mr. Claremont. I think it's, particularly after listening to the neighbors there, that this project is a good one for the neighborhood. And congratulations for taking this on, if that's the right word.
Thank you.
Good project.
Mr. Fischett?
Mr. Chairman, if I may, I'm certainly going to kind of echo the comments of colleagues. And I think one thing that, a couple things stood out to mind is, because I'm aware of projects that, similar projects that we've tried to do in the city and having them in a condominium ownership, and I think it's very insightful to say that, having two single-family homes will probably be, will probably improve the situation as far as home ownership and pride of a home ownership, and the ability to have them as separate homes, I think is important for that particular area. Also, I think Mr. Goldman mentioned as far as bless you, regarding neighborhood character, and I think clearly that if you were looking to put something that was going to really impose, be an imposition to the properties that are around there, but I think these homes are going to blend nicely in the location. And as Mr. Claremont said, in an ideal situation, if this was a pristine piece of real estate, it probably wouldn't be the way we would want to develop it. But given the existing conditions, I think it clearly is improving the neighborhood. And I think with the neighborhood character, we look at a project that's going to enhance the neighborhood, and that's usually a tough threshold to cross. And I think you're able to do that with this particular proposal. So I certainly would applaud you in the effort. And again, noting some of the items we discussed as far as working with DPD on the landscaping with the driveway and the lighting. I think actually there's a lot of potential to have a very nice entrance to both those homes. So no further comments, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Gentleman?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So I agree with just about everything that's been said here. I think that in general, these type of pork chop lots is something that the board generally frowns on, right? We don't like to see houses kind of tucked behind others with the small frontage. But in this particular case, it's an exceptional situation, right, where we have a very very bad situation there that's going to be corrected, and the developer could be looking at a condo type development here. Maybe that would be more profitable, but in this case, I think you should be commended for driving two single families, promoting long-term home ownership rather than sort of a transient type situation. I did have a couple of questions regarding some of the DPD recommendations. You did say you were going to reduce the size of that driveway, right, from 18 to 12?
I think the existing driveway is 13 now, and we're willing to go with that. So
Okay.
it's down from 18 to 13.
All right, and the lighting, you said you had a plan that you'd work with DPD on
Work
for?
with DPD to come up with some, a couple of lights on each side facing down, just to light the driveway. And then he's gonna light the houses when he's...
Okay, yeah, I think keeping that lot lit and that long driveway lit would be a really good idea under the circumstances where it's kind of tucked off the street. So if you can work with DPD on that, I think that would be advisable. Appreciate it.
Because there's two lots, I can actually have it set up so that there's an equal amount of lots, equal amount of lighting for each lot.
Mm-hmm.
That, basically you're gonna come on and shut off at, at a time that, so it's gonna be something that you can actually keep on for a while.
Excuse me.
We thought that was the way to go, and we'll be able to maintain.
Okay. Again, if you can work with DPD on that idea, I think that would be terrific. The only other thing that caught my eye was the DPD is suggesting that the window frame dimensions appear small. I know that in the past, the recommendations my experience has been that they're pretty good about aesthetic recommendations to keep the building sort of in concert with the rest of the area, and they are good at making suggestions of things that aesthetically appear better from the street. We've seen that with experience. I wonder if that's something else you'd be willing to work with them on.
You wanna tell them?
Yeah, I do. I think in reality to that, I appreciate what they're saying relative to it, but and I think when we're looking at a picture here, if you take a drive tomorrow and go to Hastings Street, I'm building two right there, and if you look at the house in the front of those, you've got upstairs, you've got a 57-inch window. Downstairs, you have a 59-inch window. Mm-hmm. They're 34 inches wide. On the sides of the buildings, I have double mullion windows, so you've got double those windows. So in reality, I can appreciate where he's coming from, but, in looking at a picture. But when it comes to the actual home, if you actually go out there and look at it, and one of the reasons why I put up here some of the stuff that was on Fernald Street, if you look at those homes on Fernald and on Westford Street and so forth, those are the exact same size windows of the windows that I will put in the front of this house. The problem with this house is that it's gonna be nice. I intend to put, again, the Cedar Discovery, Cedar Impressions, kind of the nicer look. It'll be there'll be shutters, there'll be, fluted corners to the corner posts. The decks themselves will be vinyl. The rail system will be vinyl. So I think, again, from a picture, it's harder to see it, but in reality, if you drive out to, and look at it, at Hastings Street, I think you'd probably be, pleasantly surprised at what they look like in the size of the windows. Part of the problem nowadays is it's very hard to maintain the energy audits by the larger the window. That means the more, and trust me, the codes are changing. The insulation factors and so forth in the homes right now are being taken care of within the building codes. So, every new home that's being built nowadays is being built with a much more eye toward conservation and so forth. And size of the window is a part of that situation. So, I'll work and we'll go from there.
I should just clarify what I was meant to address there was not the size of the window, it was more the molding size. It was more of an aesthetic comment than, I'm not talking about bigger windows per se, I'm talking more about the trim.
So I could probably do the trim around it, the westernly, the 4-inch, 3-inch corner.
That's exactly what I was talking
front
about.
ones, because the side ones, nobody's gonna see, honestly. So if you're talking about the ones in the front, I'd have no problem with that.
Okay, that's great. The only other thing I'd mention, since I'm the planning board's representative on the Green Building Commission, I have to bring up the LEED checklist. You started to talk about energy conservation. Are you using any, green building techniques in this development? You don't have the requirement for the LEED checklist, but...
And part of it is, quite honestly, is that nowadays, as of January 1, the new building code has some really strict and stringent aspects relative to, conservation and insulation in homes and energy savings and so forth. When it comes to using the green products, quite frankly, I'm not sure where I stand yet. I will tell you this, I'm using high-efficiency furnaces, I'm using, the type of seal coating and caulking and glazing that in the argon windows that are all being mandated by the state to upgrade. The green type checklist, I'm still working through it a bit, on how I think it relates to, the consumer and to the guy, building it and the cost, and is the cost associated with it being transferred to the next person, and is there a value there? The way I look at it is this: I'm building homes now that I used to build 2x4 walls. Now I'm required to build 2x6 walls. I used to put R30 in the basements. Now I got R38 in the basements. I used to be able to get away with putting dryer vents in certain areas and not having them insulated. Now they're strict in terms of sealing and so. Again, I think that that's probably the way I spend most of my time nowadays in the building. I will tell you that, fair or otherwise, in this economy, I'm going to do the things that are necessary, but it's more difficult for me to spend the additional money and then do all the other things too. So, and there is a cost associated with it. Unfortunately, it should be going the other way, and I hope over time it will. That makes it more cost effective for me to do more green building, but right now it's costing more. So,
Okay. Sounds great, thank you. Thank you, sir. I think it's a good project.
He tells it like it is. He tells it like it is. Dean tells it like it is.
I just have a few comments. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I know when I first looked at the plan and read everything over, before I went up and looked at it, I was looking at the site, and I was looking at the size of the units. I know usually we don't see where it goes from a two-family to two singles. But then when I drove up there, and I drove in that driveway, and I said, wow. I said, when I saw that big red X on that building, I said, and I drove around the back and saw all the debris in the back there, and saw the cabs that were off pickup trucks laying there, and the tree by the neighbor's house there, and I said, talking about improvement in the neighborhood, I said, absolutely. And one of my questions was, which has been answered, is how long it's been in this poor state. And I think someone indicated it's been like this for 2.5 to 3 years. So you try to look at what a neighborhood character would be, and I would say, obviously, what's existing there today does not fit into the neighborhood character. As planners, we look at a situation like this, if we don't approve something like this, then what happens? Does it stay the way it is? It's not gonna get any better overnight. So what do you do with it? So I think by looking at it, I looked around there, and a lot of the streets, on that street, you do have a lot of multifamily homes. I think single-family homes, they could go in there no problem. I know in Smith Street, we're familiar with it because we allowed, when I drive by and look at these sites, you look at all the other sites that we've approved over the years and how we did Smith Street further down across from the school. and how that came out nice, and that looks nice, and it's fit in there very well. And by looking at this and thinking of all the people who live next to that building, how much, if I lived there, I'd want to get it cleaned up. And I give Mr. Jenkins a lot of credit for sitting down and speaking with everybody who's here tonight, and going out and say, how can I help do it? How can I fix the wall? How can I move the tree? And for everybody to come down here and speak on behalf of it. And obviously, I always say, if you're in the neighborhood, and you're the people who are there, and it's the neighborhood character, it's your character. And so on this vote tonight, we have to consider two things. One, does it fit in the neighborhood character or enhance the neighborhood character? Which on that matter, we put in for zoning issues to make it more difficult for developers to come in and put things in our neighborhoods that we don't want. So on that, we need 4 of the 5 votes tonight to have that approved. And then on the site plan, which is an easier one for a developer to get approved, is to make sure that they meet all this checklist that we've been going over a little while ago, which sometimes people get pretty bored by us talking about the technicalities of it, but the things that the developer has to make it work. And so you look at it, you say, it is kind of small, but going in, once you drive in that driveway, and you look at that, you said, it's definitely going to be an improvement. So I applaud Mr. Jenkins for meeting with all the people who are here tonight and trying to fix up that site, and I think it's definitely going to improve it. I mean, when I look at something like that, I think of it as a safety issue. People going in there, whether it be kids drinking or other people going in there, homeless people, starting fires, what can happen in the neighborhood. We've seen it in other parts of the cities, unfortunately, and, it attracts people to go in and hang out in there, and things happen. I've seen it happen before, and, you're like, it can be detrimental to everybody in there, especially where some of those houses are very close where the trees are and everything else, and trying to get the fire apparatus in there. So the main concern we have is a letter from the fire apparatus, they can get in there. All the other checklists that we have in the planning department saying the whole site can work. So I applaud the developer for bringing it forward, and the neighbors for coming here and giving us their feelings towards this matter so we can make the right decision. But I think if done properly, and I know Mr. Jenkins has done good work in the past, he's been before us, and we've inspected his property as time's gone by, and I think this will be a nice improvement for the neighborhood character as well as the site plan. So I'm definitely in favor of the development as proposed. Okay. So any further comments from other board members? If not, we could, I'd like to, if we could do it, is take it by 2 votes, since it does need the special permit as well as the site plan. If we want to do it that way, so that way we have 2 different votes on the record. And sometimes, I know when we've done in the past, we can do it with conditions, and sometimes we can go along with the same conditions as outlined for the site plan. And I know we will be picking this up later tonight, because it also appears before us on our zoning board recommendation. If need be, while we're addressing it, if the board members want to address it all at the same time, I have no problems doing that instead of picking up 5 minutes from now.
I just want to, before you get to it, there's a couple of things that I want you to add in there as conditions that I don't think we discussed, but he discussed with the neighbors. One is the repair of that wall.
I have that here, yeah.
And a fence inside the wall.
I have vinyl fence,
Yeah.
throughout. And I think,
Oh, all right.
okay, go ahead. I want to make sure we have
And
all.
one other thing, that we notify the abutters before we demolish the property, so they'll know, so they can get
Okay,
it.
so let me just get your checklist again. So you want the vinyl fence?
Inside the wall, yep.
Inside the wall?
And repair the wall, whether it's 2 or 3.
Yeah, that's what you said to me, okay? Repair the wall. Okay. And notify the abutters before.
Before we demolish the building, because it's very important to them.
Oh, sure it is.
They don't want anything to start shaking in their house and. Right.
From that house.
So what was it, broken pipes inside the house that contribute to his runoff?
Oh, wow.
Because he said the water from there, I was like, that's what I thought it was, but it.
Oh, that's disgusting. That's terrible.
So there could be mold, there could be hazardous, mold,
Yeah.
stuff that I want to try to do this A, in the rain, and B, quickly, and let them know, so they don't have to be in the area during the time it's taking place.
And then, if we make any conditions, there's some ones outlined by DPD, or, some of the other conditions that were outlined by DPD, I think with one of the issues was the landscaping plan, the lighting plan.
We will work with
Right.
DPD on landscaping and with lighting.
And I think,
And the window frame.
right, the window frame, yeah, he was just to do the trim on the outside, right.
Front in the house, yeah.
Right. Then I think there was a couple of things that we may want to incorporate from the
Engineers.
city engineer.
Engineers.
Because, and I think one of the things that you said, Mr. Flood, and correct me if I'm wrong here, would be, you have to go for the council for the abandonment?
We will petition for abandonment. I don't think the city has any right to convey it. I think the city wants to get rid of any responsibility with Oak Terrace. That's the purpose for that, so. But I don't think they have any right to convey it. So we'll petition to abandon it, any rights that the city has in that property.
And let me just look back, I want to check one more at the,
The driveway width was the other one.
right, and I'm just trying to double check on the, what was the one we had from the city engineer? What was that copy? I think it's- yeah, was there anything there we have to include?
We can incorporate that
Okay.
entire sheet, because I'll take a shot at it, Mr.
All
Chairman.
right, go ahead, please.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the special permit as enhancing the character of the neighborhood. I'd like to make the approval with the conditions. One, that the applicant comply with the comments of the city engineer as set forth in the letter of February 12th, 2010, with the exception that we understand that they'll be applying for abandoning the unaccepted street, but it won't be conveyed to the applicant. Two, that the applicant work with DPD on the landscaping and the lighting. Three, that the driveway be reduced down to 13 feet, provided that width is acceptable to the fire department. That the wall will be repaired. That they'll install a vinyl fence inside the wall. Notify the abutters prior to demolishing the building. And that the window trim in the front of the building will be, as Aaron suggested, I forget if it was 3-inch or 4-inch. 4-inch.
Could I add one more thing, that the trees along that wall also be removed, because that's very important to these gentlemen.
All right,
Trees in the wall.
We'll add that as a condition, that the trees along the wall would be removed as well.
Right.
Yeah, that's covered, that's covered.
Any discussion on the motion?
I'll second that motion.
Okay. Okay, motion made and second, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Chair votes yes. So on the special permit, that vote carries, 5 in favor, none against. Now we'll have to entertain a motion for the site plan.
I'll make the same motion with the same conditions regarding the site plan.
I'll second the motion.
Motion's made and second, all in favor, discussion?
Aye.
Aye.
As indicated tonight on our agenda, we have recommendations that we do that go before the Zoning Board of Appeals. And those recommendations only, and this appears before the Zoning Board of Appeals next week.
Tuesday, yeah.
And you're looking for, let me get the wording here, a variance for the,
We're looking for 2 variances, one for the minimum lot frontage and the maximum front yard setback.
okay. Since we have this in front of us now, the board members have any matter if we take that vote up now while it's present and fresh in our minds, instead of waiting a few minutes? So, if we, whenever we approve a site, anytime it goes before the Zoning Board of Appeals, any conditions that we impose on this site, the Zoning Board of Appeals has to accept those conditions and may impose any new conditions, but they cannot take away any of our conditions. So do any of the board members have any recommendations to the Zoning Board of Appeals on,
Chairman,
for the variances?
I'll make a motion that we recommend approval on 2 variances for this site, for frontage and for a front yard setback.
I'll second the motion.
Motion made and second, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay. And obviously, they will, when it goes before the Zoning Board of Appeals next week, they will have a condition, they will have a list that'll be given to them through our minutes from Mr. Clausen, our associate planner, of what we did tonight with the conditions that we put on the site plan and the special permit. So when it goes before them for that variance, they will know that we looked this all over, had a public hearing, and these are conditions that we put on it, and we made a recommendation to them that we hope that they will adapt our recommendation to go along with the variance, that we feel safe with these conditions in place that will satisfy the needs of the zoning code. Okay?
Thank you very much, and I'll tell you that the city will be very happy with this vote, because if he doesn't tear down the building, they would have had to tear it down, and they don't have the funds to do it, so I think it works well for everybody.
Well, I want to thank, and I want to thank everybody for coming down here tonight, because it makes our job a little easier when we hear from the neighborhood. Thank you very much. Thank you, appreciate it.
Good job.
Excuse me, Chairman, could you just run through those conditions one more time, just to make sure I have them correct?
The first one that I put was complying with the comments of the city engineer's letter dated February 12th.
Okay.
With the exception that if the street is abandoned, it won't be conveyed to the applicant. The second one was that the applicant work with DPD for the landscaping and the lighting. Third was reducing the driveway to 13 feet, provided that width is acceptable to the fire department. Fourth was repairing the wall. Fifth was installing the vinyl fence inside the wall. Sixth was notifying the abutters prior to demolishing the building. 7 was installing the window trim in the front of the building, the 4-inch window trim. And the last one was removing the trees along the wall.
Yeah, I'll get it.
Perfect, thank you.
Coming. I even got the knife.
Okay.
Okay, where are we? Clark Road.
Yeah.
13.
Okay, moving along the agenda, next matter we have on the agenda comes in under old business. We have 133 Clark Road, which is a plan mitigation update. An update will be provided by the planning board administrator as to the progress of a mitigation plan from the applicant. The mitigation plan was to address concerns raised by the board regarding a deviation from the approval plan that was constructed on site. Aaron, you want to give us an update on this?
Yeah, sure, I don't think it'll be a very long update, but basically, the acting building commissioner had sent a letter out to the applicant at 133 Clark Road, notifying them that they were in violation of there's three zoning violations. One of them was the width of the curb cut is beyond the max. The max is 15 feet in that zoning district, and it's closer to 20 to 25. The other violation was the lighting along the side of the driveway, and then the fence height. The petitioner then, at that point, came in to meet with the building commissioner. They came over to meet with me to discuss exactly what their options are. And basically, it comes down to two. The applicant could have just built to the zoning code without any further input from the planning board, and not necessarily to the plan or conditions that were laid out, or the intent of those conditions that were laid out in the special permit approval. And that basically the building commissioner show that the driveway width is 15 feet, and fix the lights to the building commissioner's satisfaction, and same with the fence. That would only be beneficial to the applicant if they did not build the house, because if they build the house, then they need to actually build to the special permit, or seek another one if they allow it to lapse. The other option was to basically do what was originally agreed between the board and the applicant when we did the site visit, which was to come up with a mitigation plan to provide a solution that met the conditions that were approved in the site plan, that were approved with the special permit. So that option was either finally get that done, bring it back before you to review, or wait some late date down the line when they're ready to build the house and come back and just reapply for a special permit. The petitioner basically decided to get the mitigation plan on paper and present it to the planning board in the near future. I suggested that the March 15th should be adequate time for them to do so, and that that at that point, the planning board, if you so choose, could indicate that if the plan wasn't submitted or presented to you, you could choose to, again, request the building commissioner to enforce the zoning bylaws, and then that they would either have to, fix what's there on site to just meet the zoning code, or there's a number of remedies available to the building commissioner, but That's correct. It's the exact same list of remedies that was presented in that memo. Correct. Mm-hmm. That's correct.
Mr. Chairman, I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I missed an awful lot of that, but I just, I'm sorry, there was something about a mitigation plan that, you identified the three major, the driveway width, the lighting, and the height of the fence. What was discussed as the mitigation plan?
Okay, so those three elements violate the zoning code as it stands right now, outside of what was approved in the special permit with the planning board, as a separate element. The mitigation plan was something that the applicant was supposed to develop after the site visit occurred with the planning board to address all the conditions of approval and actually closer resemble what was presented in the plan. For instance, the plan had a 9-foot dimension between the edge of pavement of the driveway to the parcel boundary, whereas on site you can see it's either crossing the boundary or at least right up to it. So the mitigation plan was supposed to be a proposal from the applicant to substantially meet the intent of the approval of what was approved with the special permit.
And so then, now, is there a deadline that's been set then, did you say for March?
March 15th was the date that I suggested was a reasonable time for him to pull together. He apparently didn't understand that he was supposed to put together a mitigation plan. They put together an as-built, which the planning board and we know that what was built, that's not exactly what we need to see. Although it might help in doing an assessment of what they provide as a mitigation plan. It's not exactly what was required. So that gives them approximately 2 to 3 weeks to pull a plan together. And my recommendation was to actually have it into my office so I can get out to the planning board at least a week, if not more, prior to the 15th, so you have time to review it, rather than waiting till presenting it on the 15th.
And then the plan would be, if he doesn't present it on the 15th, then to have the building commissioner impose the fines that would be applicable, and, yeah, at this point.
Any of the
it's-
remedies that
yeah.
are available to the
Yeah,
building
okay.
commissioner.
I think at that time, the board could vote one way or another, what the request to be done, followed through.
Is the building occupied now?
Well, the existing home that's on site is occupied. That's not the building that's requiring the special permit review. The original proposal had a second building in the back. That's the one that had the driveway that would be 200 feet, beyond 200 feet, and required the subdivision of land that required the 2 separate special permits. One was for the driveway length and one was for the reduced frontage in the suburban single-family district.
Right, and everything's been on hold out there since we had that site visit, correct?
That's correct. They are working with National Grid to remove the pole, the utility pole that was installed there. I think it's going to go underground. That's being worked on. The stop work order doesn't stop that. Doesn't prevent them from.
Okay, I think that was cleared up when we did the site visit, right?
That's correct.
Mr. Chairman, so I was going to ask about the pole. So it sounds like
Yeah.
the claim at the site visit was that they couldn't put it underground because of the stop work order, but that's not the case, and that
No,
is
that's
going
not the
forward.
case. No, correct. And they understand.
That's good.
I mean, at that meeting, Mr. Camacho indicated that could still go forward.
Okay.
And then, when I've had follows up from calls from Ms. Nichols, and I've also been speaking with Aaron, that was, with the new people in charge with the building department, they indicated the same thing, that would not affect the deceased order.
I see. Yeah, I'm surprised that there was confusion about the mitigation plan, because I think it was, I can clearly remember discussing that at the site visit, that a mitigation plan would be submitted. So the 3 things that were called out as zoning violations, the curb cut, the fence height, and the lighting, that there could be additional violations with regard to the site plan, but those just aren't called out as zoning violations by the building commissioner?
Yeah, it could be, if you look at them as 2 separate scenarios, you have the one that would fall under what was approved with the special permits, the driveway length and the reduction of frontage. what requires that review is the additional home in the back. If that home's not built and the special permit lapses, all the conditions that were put on the special permit of approval, even the site plan itself really no longer applies to what's constructed there. It's just the only thing that really applies is the dimensional and landscape lighting requirements that are laid out in the zoning code. So that's why they're reviewed separately.
I see.
It doesn't forego the site plan or conditions that were approved in the special permit.
I see.
If progress is going forward. If the house in the back was moving forward in construction, the building permit would have been held up. They wouldn't have been able to pull the permit to construct. I think part of the challenge in getting some momentum and getting this project back before the planning board is that the development project itself has been stalled, so there's not a lot of kind of pressure to kind of resolve the issue.
I see. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. So hopefully we'll be seeing a plan on that on March 15th, okay? Moving along on the agenda, on ZBA notices, I know the only one we had was the one we just took care of, and we had some notices from budding towns, and from general correspondence, Alan, I know we have something in our packet here dated from Land Tech, which is for the St. Joseph's High School.
Yes, yeah. I just wanted to provide it for your information. They submitted a final plan. It was a requirement of their funding sources. They had quite a financing package to pull that project together, and the different funding sources actually require a really set of detailed elements to be in their final package before they can move forward. So this is what they submitted to us. I just wanted to pass it along to you. I reviewed it with Matt Waterman from Land Tech, and it basically addresses all the conditions. It's basically the same thing that was approved by the planning board. There's actually some additional landscaping in front of the building that they were able to carve out that you'll notice, but other than that, it's actually pretty detailed. It's pretty nice to see that.
Yeah, I mean, I noticed they did a good job on listing everything, and I was gonna ask you, which I think you just answered, is that it does go along with the conditions that we imposed. I like how they said they fixed a few things, even that we didn't request, that we discussed, but then they threw them in afterwards when they went on site, figured they worked better, which is kind of nice to see where sometimes people take our notes and they actually applied it. But sometimes we suggest things and we never hear back, and they said, gee, we got on site, yeah, we thought you guys mentioned it until we put it in. So, nice to see sometimes, so, but you feel this covers everything we did?
Yes, yeah. I mean, there was, one of the conditions dealt with a historical marker in the interior of the building. Right. But obviously will be dealt with later on, but the site development elements have been
Do we need a
addressed.
vote on this, that it does not constitute a significant change in the plan and it's minor to just accept it as filed?
I don't think so. I just wanted to provide it to the planning board for informational purposes.
Okay.
It's.
So should we
basically-
accept it as filed as per this plan? Okay, would that be sufficient? Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, like when they're talking about, paved Decatur Ave all the way to Decatur Street, it was discussed, they didn't do it, now they want to do it. I think that helps cleans it up from the pavement, obviously,
Yeah.
especially in the weather and,
That's
snow,
right, yeah.
and much easier to plow pavement, so. All right, so on this here, do we need a vote on it, or just accept it as? Okay, moving along on that, do you have any further communications for us?
The only thing I wanted to just update you on is I did receive a bond from National Development for the Lowe's project for $10,000 to hold for any of the remaining landscaping work that's on Chelmsford Street. We're still working with them on a final
Just that
solution, but I think we're
landscaping with the- yeah.
very close to it. And so that was, in talking with the design planner, it was plenty to deal with, so that's in
Actually,
place.
Lowe's is what, opening today or tomorrow?
Yeah, so they've
today?
sought their certificate of occupancy, so I think they're opening, today or tomorrow.
Yeah, I think they would mention something that, in the paper said something like, something open today, but they've been cutting tomorrow morning or something.
We, on Friday, received 2 submissions, one for 500 Pawtucket Street for the site plan on that project, and Duville both came in on Friday. So those will be on for March 15th as well.
So the two for March 15th are gonna be Duville, what was the first one, I'm sorry?
500 Pawtucket Street, that's the privately developed dormitory.
Oh, okay,
Oh, yeah.
okay.
Yeah,
I didn't catch what
perfect.
number you said, Mr. Pawtucket. Right.
Yeah, that's all.
So that's on for the 15th? Those are the only two public hearings we have scheduled for the 15th, you think?
Yes.
Okay. So those will be advertised, if not already, but soon?
Yeah, they'll probably be advertised somewhere around the 1st of March.
If you think of it, could you just give us an email on those advertisements? All right.
Absolutely.
Okay. Any other, any comments from any of the board members?
I have none.
Okay. So if not, would entertain a motion to adjourn, if no further comment? Motion's made, all in favor, say aye.
Aye?
Motion's made and second, all in favor? We are adjourned, good night, thank you, everyone. Mr. Jenkins left some of his pictures here, Al?
Yeah.
Can we get him back to him?
Sure.
And, there's my state ethics commission receipt.
Oh, I
Back to
still got
January.
it.